Hi everyone, welcome back to Aspergers from the Inside. You're here with Paul. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So today our topic is oversharing. Maybe you can relate to that. I definitely have had lots of experiences in the past of spontaneous disclosure, telling people things about myself that I probably should have kept private because it wasn't appropriate in the situation. So in this video, we'll chat through what's actually going on there and the trap of oversharing and what you can do about it. And I'll finish with one very simple strategy that you can use to make sure that you avoid oversharing and have a positive, productive conversation where you get to share what you want to share with people who it's good to share it with. So let me start with a story. Last year, I was catching up with a friend who I hadn't seen in a while, and it turns out that she had a new partner. So I asked her, "How did you meet?" Now, this question could have been answered as simply as, "We met at work," or something like that. But instead, I got a probably 10-minute or more explanation of a backstory and the events leading up to how they met, and then a business trip that involved some questionable drug use, and then sharing a regrettable sexual experience with someone else that was not her partner, and starting to list all the guys that she had previously been intimate with on her fingers. And it all made sense in terms of telling the story. There was one thing and then another thing and led to another thing, and it was a bit of a train of thought. But if you pause and zoom out, my question was, how did you meet your new partner? And that question could have been answered as simply as, we met at work at a work function 12 months ago, or something as simple as that in one line. Now, we did not have the kind of relationship where we would share those kind of details with each other on a regular basis. So it's not that this was a really good friend of mine that we always share details of our relationship like this. We hadn't previously done that. So we laughed about it. We actually recognized it at the time and had a really good discussion about what oversharing is and how it affects our lives. And the reflection was, she didn't actually know how to answer my question. So in attempting to answer my question in a kind of awkward way, it ended up in oversharing that she didn't actually want. So it was completely fine in that context, right? We were friends, no harm done. It was a funny experience. Wasn't it funny that this simple question ended up in such a massive overshare? But it's not okay, really. In another situation, in general, if you're doing this on a regular basis, there are some significant downsides to oversharing. So why is oversharing a problem? Well, firstly, she didn't actually want to tell me that information. She wasn't actually comfortable telling me that information. She was actually starting halfway through the story, halfway through the explanation, and realizing in the moment, I don't really want to be sharing this, which means that you get to the end and you've said something regrettable that you think, oh, I can't believe I said that. I wish I hadn't said that. Right? Can you relate to the experience of as soon as the words leave your mouth, you get that instant feeling of, I wish I hadn't said that. That was not the appropriate thing to say. That is not something I wanted to share with this person. So oversharing is not just about whether you're appropriate or not for the other person. It's also about your own personal boundaries. Sometimes when I'm asked a question, I feel obliged to give an answer. And actually, that is not the case. My personal story is mine to share if and when I would like to share it. So if someone asks me a question that I would prefer not to answer, or I would prefer not to give certain details, I'm not obliged to do that. But sometimes we feel obliged and we end up stepping over our own boundaries and regretting our own actions. Brené Brown has a really great phrase to talk about how to be vulnerable with someone else, what good intimacy looks like. And she talks about sharing with people who have earned the right to hear your story. So that means your story is your own. It's personal. It's valuable. You get to choose who you share your story with. And in that choice, it's a good choice to share your story with someone who has earned the right to hear it. Someone who will treat it with respect, who will value it adequately, who will honor your story, who will listen and understand and take it on board and try to get to know you better. And what you're actually doing is you're increasing the intimacy of your relationship. You're getting closer with someone by sharing something about yourself in the context of a relationship with someone who has earned the right to hear your story. Someone who has not earned the right to hear your story could be a complete stranger who hasn't earned the right to hear your story yet. And when you tell them your story, they're going to not really know what to do with it because they weren't expecting it because it was outside the bounds of your relationship. Or it could be someone who doesn't want to hear it, doesn't want to listen, is not trying to understand you. And when you try to explain yourself to someone who is not trying to understand you, it feels like rejection, it feels like gaslighting, it feels invalidating. It's frustrating because you're not getting the connection that you're trying. And the whole point is that we don't need to share with someone who has not earned the right to hear our story. Also, in terms of, and then the second part of that is it socially appropriate? And how you know this is how will the other person respond? Will they respond positively or not? So a positive reaction to sharing your story, sharing details is, oh, that was interesting. I wanted to hear that. A negative one would be, I'm not sure why you're telling me this. This seems out of place. I'm actually feeling like I'm less connected to you because I thought this was our connection and you're way out here. And so we're not on the same wavelength and that feels disconnected. Another quick lesson from Brené Brown is she has this acronym of the BRAVE acronym, and the V is for vault. And vault means, am I capable of keeping a secret? Am I capable of deciding when and where is appropriate to share this information? And it turns out that people who keep secrets well, not secrets is not the right word, but people who respect privacy are trustworthy. If you hear someone say, oh, did you hear the latest gossip about this person? I overheard blah, blah, blah. You're going to be a bit less likely to be vulnerable and share and build a relationship with that person because they don't have a boundary. They don't have filters, and they constantly say things that are probably too much and share what is not appropriate to be shared. So there's a big difference between being genuine and oversharing. And the difference is it socially appropriate within the relationship? And sometimes being very vulnerable or disclosing, not spontaneously, but disclosing something about yourself can be a really positive thing in a relationship if it's something that makes the two of you closer together. However, if it's not, if it's something that is overstepping your own boundaries, not sharing it because you want to share it with the person and because you want to create a relationship with the person and get closer, but instead sharing it spontaneously without thinking and then regretting it later, that actually is damaging to relationships. So what can we do about it? My top tip, my one strategy to avoid oversharing, it's very, very, very simple. Pause. Think about it in like a triangle of less information, more information, more information, more information. There's less detail up the top, and then we get more and more and more and more detail. So if someone asks me a question like, how are you? Like, where did you meet your wife? Like, how's work going? Or how are you feeling right now? I am going to want to answer that as short as I can in probably one sentence or two sentences. And then I want to pause and wait for the response of the other person. How did it land? Did they say, oh yeah, that's interesting? Or did they say, yep, thanks for that. So anyway, back to the basketball, are they still paying me attention? Are they still wanting more of an answer? Or was my one-liner so to go back to the example with my friend, if she'd said we'd met at work 12 months ago, I could have said, oh, great, thanks for answering that question, and then change topic. Or I could have said, that's interesting, tell me more about it. How did you meet? Was there a function? Tell me more about the work. What were the situations leading up to it? So the very simple strategy is pause. Regularly pause, and then give more information, and then pause, and then more information, and then pause. And what this does is it gives the other person and yourself an opportunity to stop and ask yourself the question, is it a good idea to encourage, so for the other person, do I want to encourage them to speak more? Do I want to say, yes, I'm interested, keep talking? Or do I want to say, thanks for that answer, that's probably enough, maybe we can change the topic now? And for myself, it allows me to pause and think, what details do I want to share with this person? Maybe I've shared enough. Maybe I wanted to change the subject. Maybe this is getting a little bit too intense for me, and this is someone I've just met and I'm really not looking forward. I'm really not trying to keep this conversation going or keep this, relationship going in the future. It's just someone I've just met and I'm probably never going to meet them again, and I don't really feel like talking about this. Then I have the ability to say less next time, to change the topic. So I actually use another small strategy. If it is something that I am very passionate about, that I would like to share a lot about, that it's likely to overwhelm the other person, I set myself up for success in advance by telling them, I'm really passionate about this thing. You've asked me a question that I have an 8-hour answer to. So do you want the 30-second version, the 8-hour version? Most of the time people are interested. They feed off my energy and they want to hear more for a little bit, right? They're probably going to be interested for a minute or two, maybe 10, probably not 8 hours. So I say to them, I could talk about this all day. Make sure that you tell me when to stop, right? If I'm talking your ear off, tell me, because I'm likely to do that. Right? That's a joke. That is a little bit true, and which means that when I actually do it, they'll say, aha, yeah. And then it also gives them an option to politely say, you're actually talking my ear off right now, and I actually have, you've been speaking about this without pause for the last 10 minutes. Maybe we can talk about something else. So, in summary, you have the right to choose when and how to share your personal story, right? So oversharing, over-disclosing sometimes is stepping over our own boundaries, and that feels regrettable, like something we'd prefer not to do. Secondly, having the choice is actually allows you to be more authentically yourself. Rather than just reacting to a situation, someone asks me a question, I give an answer without thinking about it, that you have the choice of how much am I going to say What am I going to say? What am I going to include? I actually get to control this. I have some influence. Not control is too strong, but I have influence over this conversation. If I would like to change the topic, I'm allowed to do that. If the other person is not interested, they are also allowed to tell me that I'm not interested, and I can respect their decision and not overshare with them. So it's actually being more authentically yourself to choose how you want to respond rather than spontaneously responding and then later on thinking, oh, perhaps I shouldn't have done that. Anyway, this is a really big topic. I hope that's been helpful. I know oversharing is a big thing for a lot of us. If you'd like to share your story of if oversharing is something that is present in your life, leave us a comment and tell us what it's like for you and what you thought of this one strategy. Otherwise, I should probably leave it there. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.